In Nahjul Balagah, saying 25, we're reminded that what we hold back from intentionally expressing is going to be known through our unintentional expressing. Letter 25, just like letter 24, is instructive, but letter 25 regards the distribution of the wealth. And it is according to the principle laid forth in the following verse. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَآمَنُوا بِمَا نُزِّلَ عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَهُوَ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ كَفَّرَ عَنْهُمْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ وَأَصْلَحَ مَآلَهُمْ. So, we're believing in what came down through Muhammad and acting it out. Of course, Quran wa Sunnah is how that idea is typically addressed. And those collecting the charities shouldn't take those who are lame or part lame and sick or otherwise unsound. And they shouldn't ask for the best of people's wealth. It'd be nice if that's what they gave, but, you don't ask those. And don't mix the properties until it's figured out which properties. And just like in the last saying, where there's regard for the parentship, and the seedlings or saplings or whatever you want to call them, there is regard for the riding animals as well. You don't overwork them. You don't separate them when the babies are too young. That's why in Islam we don't eat we don't eat them too young. So our veal isn't, admittedly, our veal isn't as tender because we're not allowed to box them. We're not allowed to pick them at that young of an age. The animals should not be allowed to overgraze. If there's an option, of course. And they should also be allowed in spots where there's abundance to, drink and eat more so that, they can pass through the other places easier. And, one of the biggest the issue isn't that people are eating meat and things are overused in that regard. No. The issue is that people are, they're sending food back and forth rather than eating in the area from the area in which they live. They are sending water and all sorts of stuff back and forth with vehicles and all that. That uses more resource than the food itself, far more. And the other thing too, the food resources could be times by 10 if we just regarded some of these principles here. And when when charities are collected, don't make a point about, you avoid scaring the animals or teasing them or making, the people that you're collecting from upset. And get permission to approach the animals, have the person go with you to his flocks and all that. Don't just And so the property is divided and divided and divided until you figure out what the dues are. So they can come and collect, they can come and determine what is the, exactly how much is owed. Nowadays, outside of taxes, we are supposed to figure out for ourselves, because our taxes, particularly what our taxes are used for, are not, part of our charitable obligation. Now, tax deductible, you can take your some tax deductible stuff off some of your charitable donations. Sermon 25 was upon the situation of the people of Muawiyah conquering some cities, and people were like starting to give up and not act right. And Ali reminded the people that, hey, my responsibility is Kufa, and this is where my administration is centered from. And, if the political tides keep turning and it turns you, it would be better for you to be destroyed than to at the very least, because it's, weakens the community, and feels like, oh, well, we're going to be defeated. It's like, sometimes that's not the case, right? And it ends up being like, the right side is only left with a little bit of a rich pan that is left behind, and so much of that is, because of this division into groups. But we pray that people are emotionally affected by God, for God's side. And we should be the sort of person that is not, that can be trusted with much. So many people can't be trusted with even something wooden. A wooden utensil, you can't, wooden utensils are more expensive than others nowadays, but, And sometimes things move swiftly, sometimes things don't move as swiftly. And sometimes things are going to come to your side just because you've called for them. Whether that's indirectly or directly, sometimes just make the call.